Well, folks, in today's video, we visit the OVAR flea market in Ottawa, Ontario. This is the first kind of train show-like event that I've been to in over 2 years, and I've got to say, I was absolutely thrilled to be back at one again. Furthermore, all the sellers at these shows had a ton more stock than usual because basically over the last 2 years they've been collecting stuff but they haven't been selling it. So the amount of things you could buy was just off the wall and the prices were the best I think I've ever seen. The amount of good deals I saw was just, it was unheard of, really. So anyways, I'm going to take you all on a tour and I hope you all enjoy. The first table I decided to check out was actually being run by the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, and all the items that you see right here are things which people have donated to the museum for them to sell off in order to raise money for the museum, and their prices were just amazing. Pretty much all the locomotives were being sold for about $5 or $10 with very few exceptions. And, it was nice buying stuff from this stand because, that the money is going to a good cause. Anyway, here's something kind of unusual I saw. This was a Triang RDC, heavily modified, really not the kind of thing you see every day. They also had some steam locomotives and a whole bunch of vintage rolling stock. Just check out these old popsicle ads. You gotta love the 70s style design on some of these things. All of the rolling stock, which you see right here, was being sold as a deal, so it was 2 for $5, which doesn't seem too bad. Some of these cars were in pretty good shape. All this stuff here is pretty common. It's not something too special in my opinion, so I didn't really end up buying anything from this spot. However, if you were looking for some budget vintage rolling stock, it's really not bad. They also had some miscellaneous boxes, which I ended up going through. This entire box right here is full of more European stuff, and they were actually selling everything you see in this box for $5. Not each item, the entire box for $5. As I said in the beginning, there were some really unheard of deals here. The next table ended up having a whole bunch of miscellaneous scenery items, so they had a whole bunch of different buildings, telephone poles, bridges, vehicles, quite a few different vehicles, and all of the items here were being sold at decent prices. They certainly were not the lowest I've seen at this show, but still relatively good, especially when you compare it to what you would pay online. They also had some higher-end locomotives. I believe some of these are new in the box, also being sold at decent prices. And then to the right of that, they had slightly older stock, a whole bunch of different pieces of rolling stock, locomotives. All this stuff was okay, but below that, I ended up finding a couple of E8 locomotives, which I've got to say, I thought that those looked pretty nice. And they had a little Bachmann Gandy Dancer, 2 other locomotives. I think one was an Erie Lackawanna, and that was pretty much it for this stand. Now this table right here made an appearance in my 2019 tour of this exact show, and as you can see, since they haven't been selling stuff over the last 2 years, they have a lot of the same locomotives. I imagine these must have all been out of the same collection because everything in here was kind of from the Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire type area, all the railroads that you'd find around there. The locomotives were all pretty much being sold for $50 too, which for some of those engines is a really good price. Keep in mind everything here is being priced in Canadian dollars too, which is about 30% less than American, so it makes these good deals absolutely great deals if you happen to be from across the border. Some of the tables at this show were literally just giving stuff away for free, which is not something I've seen at too many train shows. A lot of this stuff is not fantastic, as you would imagine, but still, if you were a beginner and you were looking for some stuff to get started off with, this would just be a fantastic way to build up your collection a little bit. They had this one old lifelike locomotive, which I had a quick look at. It was a dummy engine, so I just ended up leaving it there, but they also had a whole bunch of different pieces of rolling stock, which, again, didn't look too bad. They also had these 2 pieces of rolling stock with Katy couplers and metal wheels, all just being given away, no cost. Over here they had a whole bunch of different buildings. These were all being sold for between $2 and $5. I tell you, if you were a beginner at one of these shows, this would just be the best way to start building up your layout. They also had some weathered boxcars, which looked to be pretty well done. And then the second table, which I believe was being run by the same seller, pretty much had more of the same stuff, except everything on this table was definitely in much better condition. You can even see they have some new in the box Walters kits. Now, the show did have a little bit of O-scale stuff. They didn't have quite as much as I've seen in the past. I think these things are really just luck of the draw. But it's nice to see a variety of scales at these sorts of shows. Here was the final table which I ended up visiting. I think it was being run by the organizers of the show, and at a first glance it really doesn't seem like there's anything too special here. But the thing that makes this table really special is that everything on it, it doesn't matter what it is, was being sold for $1. I have never seen so many items being sold at such a cheap price. This was just mind-boggling. Anyway, that's about it for my tour of the show. As you can imagine, with these great prices, I did end up getting some really good deals and walked away with a whole bunch of different stuff, which I am very eager to show you all. So I'm just going to grab myself a quick coffee, head back home, and I'll show you all exactly what it is I got. Well, now back home from the train show, and here's everything I decided to buy. There are a lot of fantastic things in here I want to show you all. But I think I want to start with the kind of mystery box, which is that lot of European stuff, which I bought for $5. I don't even know entirely what I bought. All I know is that there were a bunch of engines in it that I was interested in. So I'm just going to move all the other things I bought out of the way, and then we'll go through that, and then I'll show you all the other stuff I decided to buy. So first of all, that stand that was selling stuff for $1 a piece had this locomotive right here. The guy selling it basically said that this engine is completely hopeless. It's never going to ride the rails again. The drive is apparently completely shot. I have no idea what exactly is wrong with it, but I kind of took that as a bit of a challenge, so I decided to go ahead and buy it for $1. We'll see if we can make it ride the rails again. I don't know, but if somebody says something can't run, I want to see if we can change that. Now, on to all the European stuff. Let's just dig through it and see what we find. So we've got this sort of just four-wheel passenger car of some sort. I think it's German. I'm not entirely sure. It's all tin plate, though. It actually looks kind of nice. We've got this Triang locomotive. I have always wanted one of these. I have the Canadian National version, but I've been trying to find one like this at a good price. Unfortunately, it's a dummy locomotive, so not exactly what I was looking for, but it's still an interesting addition to the collection. But down here is a lot of the things that I have not taken out before. We've got some sort of a tin-plated British car. Look at that, LMS. It's in rough shape, but it's kind of beautiful. I wonder if this is part of the Triang set. Yeah, it's actually a French manufacturer. Huh. Very unusual. Seem to have some sort of German locomotive. It's unfortunately AC, so it's not going to work on my layout, but it's all made out of metal, being held together by a piece of string. Well, it looks like we've got another LMS car. Oh, it's Hornby 00. Made by Meccano. Huh. Yeah, I've got another engine of some sorts, made by Roco. I think it's another German one. It actually looks to be somewhat high-end, actually. Huh. Well, we'll have to see if that one will run. I have no idea what this is. Odd. And we got an auto loader with a whole bunch of different cars and things like that. No idea what that was part of. Yeah, German passenger car. Not bad. I think this goes with the other one. I don't know if this is supposed to be a locomotive or just one of those setups where you have a locomotive and you can drive the train from both ends by having controls in the last car. I'm sure somebody in the comments will know. I have no idea what railway this is. This locomotive is pretty unusual, but one of the gentlemen at the train show was telling me that the London and Port Stanley Railroad had one, and possibly Canadian National as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a little 040. This unfortunately is another AC locomotive, so I don't think this one will ever ride the rails of my layout, but for $5 you can't complain. It's not seized either, so that's nice. This was something that I was really excited about. I think it's an old Hornby. Yeah, it's another Hornby Dublo, but 00, and it's I don't have a ton of British stuff, a bunch of British things on my layout, so I thought it'd be great to add this. You know, I had a very brief look through the box. There's some funny stuff going on with it though. Don't really know what the deal with that bolt is, and well, the whole frame's coming apart. If anybody in the comments knows anything about this locomotive, please let me know. But it is a British addition to the collection. No complaints there. And I got a couple passenger cars. These look to be in really good shape. So that's about it for this box right here. And now we get to go through the other stuff, most of which is North American. So this was being sold by my train club. I asked them what they wanted for it. They said I could have it for free, but I just decided to give them a $5 bill for it. I don't know if it runs or not, but it is made by Atlas, and these old Atlas locomotives, in my experience, are pretty tough. And I've always wanted a Seaboard Coastline locomotive. I've always thought the paint scheme was really nice, so there's something new. Now, this right here is a really nice looking Pennsylvania Railroad locomotive. It was being sold by the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, and as I said, they were all being sold for like between $5 and $10. At the end of the show, they were trying to just get rid of stuff. So when I asked him how much he wanted for this locomotive as well as a couple others, he said $5, and that was just way too generous, so I actually ended up giving him a 20 for it. Now, I'm not personally interested in this locomotive. It's in fine shape and everything, but I figured I'd pick it up and maybe do some sort of a giveaway with it. So put a comment on this video and I'll randomly pick somebody and I'll ship this engine to you. It's a good engine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's too good a deal to pass up and not something I wanted. So why not give it to somebody who does? Now, in that same lot that, again, the guy offered me for $5, I ended up buying this. It's an old Athearn engine. It looks to be in pretty rough shape. I have no idea if it runs or not, but it's another Atlantic Coastline, very similar one to this in terms of the paint scheme. I'm not sure if they were associated in any way. I'd imagine so, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty nice deal. And of course the classic Tyco Canadianas. I already own one of these, but it was being sold real cheap and it's in really good shape. I don't know if it runs or not, but the cosmetic condition is really good. And I don't find you find these everywhere. They're not super rare, certainly not as rare as the shark noses are, but still not the most common out there. And then finally, out of that lot, we've got this engine right here. It's Canadian Pacific F unit. It looks decent, but the thing I found really exciting about it is it has a drive which I am not familiar with. So I don't really know what the deal with that is. It's made in Japan, but yeah, maybe it runs, maybe it doesn't. Either way, I want to open it up and just see what this thing's about. I really like the stuff that's unusual, you know, the types of things that you don't find too often. So I just figured, why not? Now, here's another thing the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario was selling. My buddy Nick actually ended up finding this thing. And it's a scratch-built, kind of interurban of some sort. I don't know. It's really, really unusual. Just look at the drive. It actually uses a spring to connect it to the motor. It's built out of wood. This is obviously all kit bashed. The guy who was selling it suspected it was probably made in about the 40s or 50s. I think that that is very believable. This was just too interesting to pass up, you know. It's not in fantastic shape, but I figured why not buy it and just see what it's about. At the end of the day, it's something unusual to add to the collection, so I thought that that was pretty special. This is certainly one of the things that I think I'm probably most excited about out of all the stuff I bought. Now, I did mention there were a couple E8s that I really did like seeing, and I decided to buy them both. They weren't being sold for the greatest price in my opinion. They were both $35. So I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get these both, but I just decided, hey, I'm going to offer the seller a certain price. If they accept it, I'll take them. So I offered him 50 bucks, you know, $25 each for both of them. And he said yes. So I was able to walk away with these two Canadian National E8s. And I'm really happy with these. I've always wanted a couple of E8s like this. And they've got a pretty solid drive. I believe they're Roco as well, so these are well-built locomotives. I don't think they're going to give me too many troubles, and why not have an AA set of sorts with them. Now that's pretty much everything I bought, with the exception of what's in this bag. Now this was also from the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, and it was higher than $10, but it was still an amazing deal. We've got this Rivarossi. Well, I believe it's a Rivarossi. Actually, it's not a Rivarossi. I don't know who this is by, but it's a really nice looking GG1, and the guy wanted 20 bucks for it. I don't think you can beat that price. It's pretty remarkable. So I decided to pick it up. You can't go wrong with the GG1s. They're just gorgeous locomotives, so I am absolutely thrilled with that. Anyway, why don't we take all of these locomotives over to the track and see if any of them will run. My hopes are a little low for a few, but ones like these I think are going to be solid. Let's check it out. I'm really curious to see which of these are going to end up running. Just to start off here, I've already written off these three because they are either a dummy engine or they run on AC power, so I can't really do much with those. But as for the rest of them, let's see what they'll do. I'm going to start right here with the Atlas locomotive, the Eastern Coastline. I've got a pretty good feeling about this one. These old Atlas engines tend to be quite solid, so I think this one is going to fire up without too much hesitation. Yeah, no problems. I'm sure it will make it all the way back here. And it's even got a working headlight. For $5, I really don't think you can complain about that. Next up is the Athearn. This is a blue box. These are really tough locomotives. However, this one's in very rough condition. You can see there's actually rust on the wheels. I highly suspect it was involved in a flood or something like that. It's definitely exposed to moisture, that's for sure. Yeah, let's see. Giving it power. Oh, that's not good. So there's something severely wrong with the drive. It's the motor is definitely running, but I think one of the drive rods has come loose or something like that, because you could actually hear it hitting the shell. I've never really seen that kind of thing happen before, but she's going to need some work. Here's the supposedly hopeless locomotive, and I can kind of see why. I mean, look at the gearbox, and it also looks like the truck is a bit chipped. I don't know. I'd be really surprised if this one starts, but let's see what's going on. I heard something from the motor. It's trying to go. It's not great, obviously, but well, I'm thinking there she goes. It's not great. It definitely needs work, but this is not near to as hopeless as the guy selling it thought. I think he just wanted to be honest that it might be tricky to get it going again, but yeah, this thing I think is going to be riding the rails. I mean, it already went like 3 feet under its own power, so that's really good. Anyway, here's the Pennsylvania locomotive, which again I intend to give away to some lucky viewer. And The guy at the show actually did test this thing, and it did run just fine then. Yeah, it seems pretty smooth. Well, derailed, but it's not really an indicator of how well the drive works. Now, here's the Canadian Pacific F unit. Again, this engine has a drive which I've never seen before. No idea if it works or not, but let's try it out. I heard something for just a split second there. However, I'm not seeing any current draw, so I don't really know what the deal with this one is. Yeah, I was pretty sure I heard something from the motor, but maybe I'm imagining things or something like that. Doesn't seem to be showing much in the way of life, but it looks pretty solid. Hopefully the drive's in good shape, or whatever it has, I don't know. And here's the kind of mysterious locomotive. No idea if this one's gonna go. Some of these, you know, you can kind of guess what they're gonna do just based off their design, but see, like, I have no idea what kind of drive this thing has. It's got a nice bright light on the inside, but nothing from the motor. So what we know about this engine is that the electrical system is working to some extent. It's picking up power because it's getting to the light, but the motor, I'm not hearing anything. I'm not seeing high current draw, so the motor is not getting power. Could be a broken lead going to the motor, could be a bad brush. Whole variety of different things can cause that, but it's undoubtedly going to need some work. This one's a Tyco. I'm pretty familiar with these things. They're kind of a 50-50 chance, as in half the time they run, half the time they don't. Not the greatest drives out there, but they're very easy to work on, so I'm not going to be surprised if this one doesn't run, but if it doesn't run, it's not really a big deal. It's not running well, but that is definitely running. It's seized. Well, it's going to need some work, but that's okay. As I said, these are pretty easy to work on. I guess we should try out the British locomotive. I really don't know if this one's going to go or not. The motor looks good from what I briefly saw, but it's in pretty rough shape overall, so yeah, I don't know. Somebody's clearly tried to keep it going. With all the metal parts, though, I'm not going to be exactly shocked if there's a short circuit. Yeah, this whole system is not good. I mean, the engine's not even sitting on the track right. And the drive is definitely not working either. Those wheels shouldn't be turning like that. And yeah, it's exactly what I guessed. It's got some sort of a short circuit. Well, hopefully we can get that one going again at some point. I guess now we should test out this engine. I really don't know much about it, but it does have a Roco drive in it. Those are pretty solid in my experience, so I think this one's got a decent shot. Giving it power and not much so far. Start giving it a little more power here. And there we go. Sometimes you just need to get these things moving a little bit. Yeah, it seems to be running fine. Current draw is relatively low. I'm assuming this engine was made sometime in about the 90s, just judging by the detail on it, but I could be wrong. Again, I'm sure someone will know something about it. Now, I guess we should try out the 2E8s. Now, these actually have the same brand of drive that's in that locomotive right there. Austrian-made Roco drives. Pretty sure this is gonna go. a tiny bit rough, but it's running. Headlight works. It's definitely got some good flywheels in it too, because when I spin down the power, the engine keeps going. Looks like it's going to run off the track, but hey, we got a runner. And now we'll see what the other one's like. Okay, all wheels engaged. No problems. Well, it's not running the best actually, but it is running. Yeah, the truth is all these drives are going to need a little bit of work, you know, because when these things have been sitting for a long time, things oxidize and contacts and things like that of the sort are going to have problems. Also the lubricants and everything dry out. Now, it's time to try out this very mysterious interurban kind of locomotive. Now, this is a kit-bashed drive, so I know nothing about it, and it wasn't tested at the show, so I really don't know if she's going to go, but let's give it a shot. All right, I'm applying power. So far, I'm not seeing anything whatsoever. Oh. Huh. Well, I will be darned. It's rough, but that is much more than I would expect. And the current draw is fairly low too. It's all good. I'm sure whoever kit-bashed this thing probably 70 years ago would be pretty happy to know it's still going all these years later. And now, finally, the GG1. Is she gonna go? Now, I originally thought this was a Rossi, but after having a closer look at the drive, I'm kind of thinking it might be Mahano. I don't think it's a Pemco. A BB? Yeah, I haven't seen that before, but anyway. Oh yeah, no problems. This runs really well. Nice bright lights. Well, I'll be honest, that's far more than I was expecting. What a engine. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed my tour of the show and haul and testing and everything else. I certainly had a lot of fun with every step, and yeah, can't wait to get working on some of these locomotives. But until then, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching.